Welcome to this Fantasy Source Football Podcast. My name is David A. Arnott, sitting here with George Winkler. And finally, at long last, we have football season.
That's true. We have the Saints and the Vikings kicking off at 8:30 tonight, a rematch of the NFC Championship game, and, let's get it started.
Yeah, so you guys say that with a little bit more enthusiasm. Let's get it on. Anyway, basically what we're going to be talking about today is your Week 1 strategy, and it's a little bit different than it's going to be later on in the season because we don't really know how teams are going to be reacting and acting during their in-game strategies and everything. We've kind of been seeing vanilla strategies during preseason, so it's hard to draw conclusions from them. Specifically, George, how do you feel about, say, looking at teams and trying to play matchups, like mixing and matching your guys depending on who they're playing against in Week 1?
Well, truthfully, it's a little bit early for that. I mean, we like to say save the overthinking for later. When we have some stats and numbers to go on, usually they aren't really valid until after Week 4. That's generally speaking. There are a few matchups that you will want to take advantage of in Week 1, but for the most part, you just want to roll out those guys who are your studs, who you drafted earlier in the draft, and just let it be, relax, enjoy Week 1.
I mean, there's one specific one, or there are actually two of them that I want to talk about with guys who are, at least one player, Sean Green, is going to be a starter, a nominal starter on just about any fantasy league out there, the Jets starting running back. But he's going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who a lot of people have as a Super Bowl contender and have a notoriously difficult run defense for the opposition. Do you think that still holds, that, you've got Sean Green, you probably drafted him in either the first or second round. He's going to be one of your two starting running backs every other week of the year. Do you start him this week?
Well, this is one of the toughest calls of Week 1 because one of the things that seems to carry over from year to year is the Ravens' defense. Their run defense is good. It's been good the last 3 or 4 years. But, again, I'm going to throw Sean Green out there because you got to beat the best to be the best, and he's one of your best guys. You drafted him in the second round. He's got the talent. It's not like he's, chopped liver on the other side of the ball, so I'm going with Sean Green this week.
Obviously it also has to do with your backups. If you've got Carell Balter, not so much. But would you still say that even if you have someone like, someone who would be a backup but still has a starting job, Cadillac Williams?
I would, because Cadillac Williams is an older back. He is going up against the Browns. But
there's a reason why he was drafted in the later rounds.
Yeah, he's in a less explosive offense. His offensive line is not nearly as good as Sean Green. So I'm going to trust that the Super Bowl caliber Jets will get down the field more often than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a quarterback who has a bad finger anyway.
Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, looking at our Fantasy Source rankings, weekly rankings, I looked at the wide receivers earlier, and I was actually a little bit surprised to see Bernard Berrien, Vikings wide receiver, listed among the top 10 choices among wide receivers. So I just want to know why it is that you think that particular matchup is looking pretty good.
Let me clear up the whole controversy about Berrien, because we have gotten some response on that, and it has to do with him being the healthiest Vikings receiver right now, with the best chance of getting Brett Favre's targets. Last year in the NFC title game, Berrien went for 9 receptions for 102 yards against an aggressive Saints defense that was blitzing, trying to hit Favre, and Berrien's that deep threat. So he's the play this week. Now, for the whole season, no. Percy Harvin's the better play on the Vikings for the whole season, but since he's been dealing with the migraines, Sidney Rice is out injured, we're giving Berrien some love this year, a lot of love.
That was something that jumped out at me. Specifically, though, I can understand where you're coming from. Berrien is the only straight up going to be healthy starting wide receiver for them, starting caliber wide receiver for them. Harvin, as crazy as it seems with the migraines, he's set to play as far as last I heard, but we don't really know until, the way that those things are, he could just walk in there and then all of a sudden get an attack, not be able to play. So I get where that's coming from, but it did jump out at me. The other guy I want to talk about for Week 1 is Dennis Dixon. And now this is going to be a really fascinating thing in Pittsburgh because they have a running back that they can lean on in Rashard Mendenhall. Ditson, though, I mean, he's a bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, how do you feel about playing him as if you've suddenly, I mean, if you've got a bottom tier quarterback, you drafted the last starting quarterback, how do you feel about perhaps taking a flyer on Ditson for a bit?
I'm a little bit hesitant, and I'm more worried about what the effect's going to be on Hines Ward, Mike Wallace, Heath Miller, and even Rashard Mendenhall, and even maybe the Pittsburgh defense, because if Dixon goes out and doesn't have a good game this week, they're basically stuck with him for 4 weeks because Roethlisberger's out, Leftwich is hurt. So this is a great game to watch. A lot of things are going to be decided in this game. And, we even have to watch the whole dynamic between Mendenhall and Redmond in the goal line because there's been stories lately that Redmond's going to get the goal line carry. So a lot of stuff to watch in the Atlanta-Pittsburgh game, one of the more interesting games of the week.
I mean, that's the last thing that Mendenhall owners will want. I mean, they already probably drafted him early in the second round. He probably already fell behind the top tier of running backs. And now if he gets his goal line carries vultured away, I mean, that could suddenly push him down below even someone like Arian Foster, especially in PPR leagues, where Foster, he could be getting 60 receptions this year if Steve Slayton is any kind of indication.
It could. I mean, it's a definite concern for Mendenhall. I'm going to still hold off and say, don't go out and trade Mendenhall or anything like that. Let's see how this plays out. But, it's something to watch for and very intriguing in Pittsburgh with the whole Roethlisberger situation.
All right, George, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you.